Uh, Welcome to the May 4th, 2023 County Commissioner meeting. At this time, we're going to ask Commissioner Hollingsworth to give the prayer and the pledge.
Bow our heads. Lord, thank you for this day and thanks for all the things you've done for us. I want to thank you for these commissioners up here that spend their days trying to do the job that the people elected them to do and work hard at it every day. I want to thank you for the people in the crowd that care about their community and know that we're doing the best we can. I want to thank you for all the soldiers that are overseas and pray for everybody, Ukraine and all the other places that are racked with death and destruction. And I just pray that we can make decisions that make the people understand that we're for them and no one else. And Columbia County is king in our minds. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, David, do we have any additions or deletions?
We have one addition. It is related to, how do we want to word that, Kevin? Animal control,
Permitting at the Humane Society.
and it'll be under Mr. Kirby.
Under Mr. Kirby, permitting at the Humane Society. Okay. Is that all? The only one we have?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda as amended. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna start off with the proclamation. I'll read it. Is there anybody here before I start reading to accept this proclamation for? No, okay, Alden's here. Okay, yeah. All right. Proclamation number 2023 P-06, National Travel and Tourism Week 2023. Whereas the travel industry fuels every industry and will continue to be an essential part of Columbia County's economy, development, and workforce. Whereas Columbia County welcomed over 2 million visitors between 2021 and 2022 and put over 2,000 people to work in the tourism industry. Whereas visitors spent over $200 million in Columbia County and the county collected over $2 million in bed tax from visitors in 2022. Whereas tourists contribute $33.7 million in state and federal taxes, saving every household in Columbia County $1,150 in taxes because of visitors to our area. Whereas travel is an economic powerhouse for every state and destination across the country with an economic output of $2.6 trillion in 2022, supporting 14.5 million in American jobs. Whereas travel spending supports vibrant and safe communities in Florida and across the United States by generating $84 billion in state and local tax revenue in 2022. To support essential services such as education, emergency response, public safety, and more. Whereas travel enables success for all industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, and more, by driving sales growth, innovation, education, and operations that move our economy, our nation, and Columbia County forward. Whereas leisure travel, which accounts for more than 3/4 of all trips taken in the U.S., spurs countless benefits to travelers' health and wellness, creativity, cultural awareness, education, happiness, productivity, and relationships. Whereas travel is an essential industry, and we must continue to communicate that growing travel leads to economic growth, benefits businesses, and fosters mutual understanding. Therefore, the Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim May 7th through the 13th, 2023 as National Travel and Tourism Week in Lake City, Columbia County, and urge the citizens of Columbia County to join me and recognizing the critical role this industry plays in Columbia County. Attest James M. Swisher, Clerk of Court, Board of County Commissioners, Columbia County, Florida, Rocky Ford, Chairman.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adopt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. You want to come up? Anything?
Alden? He's too busy working.
Get out and travel, enjoy the nice weather, go see the sights.
Visit Columbia County. It's not better than that.
Mr. Chair, if we could, David, I just, on the consent agenda, and I apologize for not getting it earlier, but on the enterprise fleet thing,
Yes.
just a explanation on that, and then I've got a comment on, I'd like to share a comment on number 10, 11, and 12, just as a whole, nothing specific. I'd just like to make a comment on that, but
Which, number 2, 10, 11, and 12.
Number 2, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Are those for comment or to be pulled from the agenda?
Just comment, just clarification.
Okay.
Okay,
Were you pulling 2?
yeah, just for clarification, yes. Mhm.
Okay.
So if the chair wants, we can talk about them now and then leave them on the consent agenda and adopt as part of consent,
Okay,
or we can actually pull them from the consent.
You want to talk about it now?
sure, yeah, David, also I'm at, on the, I was looking where all the monies are coming from on the enterprise. Explain that to us if you would.
That one's kind of a fun one. Basically, traditionally, we've always bought our vehicles.
Correct.
And so we put it under capital purchases. Since we're now moving under this lease program, the clerk's office came and said, we really can't set up the monies that way. We have to set it up as principal and interest payments. Well, none of our accounts had principal interest payments, so when we budgeted, we didn't budget principal and interest payments. So this is Ben's effort to come in here and take the money from where it was budgeted and put it into principal and interest accounts so that it'll follow the correct financial accounting procedures, because it's now a lease vehicle rather than an actual acquisition of capital.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, when I seen where all the three different, accounts where it's coming from, I was just,
Yeah, I looked at it too. It's like, oh, okay, now I know what he wants.
okay. And
So
then,
yeah, it's strictly accounting because of the way we're changing for the acquisition of the vehicle.
I got you.
And it was prepared by the clerk's office.
And board, I had a discussion with Joe, Mr. Foreman, early on in the week, because I had somebody make a statement to me on the zoning, the special family lots. As Joe explained, we're really not doing nothing wrong, but we all remember what happened in the past, and I think we alleviated that, on the building out there. I think it's in your I call it the Linton Building,
Mhm.
on, where it was shot down here, but it got recorded. But don't know if it would, here we are voting on these, but my simple point is, and it is somewhat minuscule, but these deeds are already recorded at the clerk's office. I think that's just one step of jumping the gun. That, because we could, I don't have no disposition about none of these, definitely myself, but there could possibly be that come up in the future. And I just wanted to point that out to the board that, but Joel had a good point. It's one of them steps that is already in there, and we do a lot better job now. If we did vote one of these down, Joel would scribble a paper and throw it forward. But I just, Joel may be sick that day.
While we're speaking, I have one comment or question on that too. I know that property gets sold in Columbia County, that when people go to develop that piece of property later on, they find out it's an illegal lot.
Yeah, we
Are
have
there
several.
any way we can stop that from happening?
Yeah, well, so you can't really stop it because if they never, people are free to buy and sell their property as they see fit. And if they never come and ask, how does this affect my eligibility for a building permit? We can't tell them. Now, I do know when they do come and ask, we look at it and we say, no, you wouldn't be able to, and typically they won't do it. What Mr. Kraus and I are working on and what I'm researching right now, you have a lot of people who are bona fide purchasers. So that'll happen, what you just described, Commissioner Ford. And then 2, 3, 10 years later, somebody who doesn't have any reason to know better comes in and buys one. Commissioner Phillips has a couple of these in his district. And the first thing they do is come down to get a building permit. And the first thing that the building officials say is, you got an illegal non-conforming lot here. We can't give you a permit. We want to create a mechanism subject to the board's approval where in that particular circumstance where the person can demonstrate, I had no reason to know, I was a bona fide purchaser, I was completely in the dark, where they're innocent basically, where you guys could give them a special permit that would say, look, under the specific factual circumstances. So what you're going to have to do is create a time period so that it's not easy to just kind of work around this. You'll have to have, 2 years, 3 years, something like that, where there'll be a gap so that somebody couldn't just for convenience come down and do it and say, oh, I didn't know. We'll have to figure that out. But that is something that's being worked on right now. And that's exactly the point you're making, Commissioner Ford, is a lot of people divide their land. They don't really understand that what they're doing is creating a problem for them. Sometime down the line, they sell to a third party who has no idea what's going on, and then they're stuck. And we have a few of those, and we're working on that ordinance right now.
To my understanding, there's, the statement was made that there's a couple of these that are illegal as they stand today. Do we?
Not to my knowledge. So special family lots are unique, and we're kind of going to emulate the way we do that zoning, or excuse me, the way we do that permitting when we talk about these other lots. But with special family lots, as long as the remaining lot is at least an acre in size and the resulting lot is an acre in size, and you have the appropriate family relationship, we get around density, we get around lot size. We just those 2 1-acre requirements. You can never have smaller than a 1-acre lot in this circumstance. None of these 3, to my knowledge, have any problem. The only issue we had, I think one of your folks had said, well, I went ahead and recorded my deed. Well, there is the possibility that you guys don't approve this and they've gone ahead and recorded the deed. So what they'd really need to do in that circumstance is undo it, because it's not a legal lot of record. We generally don't recommend people record until they get approval, which is, that's just the proper sequence of events. But again, you can't stop somebody from transferring their own property if they want to. We never even know.
Well, and that's why you explained it to me the other day.
Yeah, we do have stop gaps in place, talking about the property down there on Branford Highway where the wrong ordinance got signed. That's what this is here for now. That's why we do this here. When you guys approve something, I pull it out. And if you don't approve something, I strike through it so it doesn't get signed.
Well, then you got the Dix issue that we'll be dealing with. I'm sure staff will, whoever in the future. But, do we have that planning and zoning person in place today, or Ms. Breacham, she gone?
So Miss Connie will be here until the 16th of May, at which point she is resigned to take another position. Our plan moving forward is we have contracts with a firm that does that kind of work. Well-respected, I believe his name's Lloyd Garrett, and some people that work with him. And we're looking at following up with trying to get that position filled relatively quickly.
Now, Joel, if there is out of one of these 3 or 3 of these 3, however you want to say it, if something comes back here in the next week or so that these are non-conforming lots, can that be repealed? Can these be repealed?
You mean the master lot itself is non-conforming? The original lot?
No, the new lot.
The new lots you create will be fine because they're special family lots.
Okay.
And that's already been vetted by staff. So this does go through the building department. They look, they make sure the affidavits are in order. That's why it goes on the consent agenda. Your
Okay.
staff has already done all the checking.
Okay.
And so if you
So
approve
once they get
these,
to this point here, they've already been vetted. They're legal.
that's correct. That's
And
correct.
it's already been before planning and zoning approved also, right?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
This gets approved by staff, but what they do, they go through your ordinance and your LDR and they check off all the requirements. Okay. Is the appropriate family relationship here? Is it reflected by affidavit? Is the master lot at least an acre? Is going to still be at least an acre in size, and the resulting lot will be at least an acre in size. And if all those things get ticked off and a couple other things in the LDRs, then they pass it through to you guys for the consent agenda because you have final approval.
So basically all these are,
The-
they meet all the
these-
requirements for family lots.
These will have passed muster in the building and zoning office before they come to you.
Okay.
Any
Yeah.
more conversation?
So at this time, Joel, you're trying to get these, like the 2 lots I have,
Yes, sir.
we're trying to get those done now.
Yes, sir.
How, like you're doing a 2-year period, like you wait 2 years when somebody buys a lot.
You guys will ultimately decide that, but that's something we're working on is to figure
Yeah.
out what's the appropriate gap. We don't want to make it something where people can
Right,
easily
where
use
you
it
can
for
just do
fraud.
it 2 weeks from now, you might
Yeah.
want to do come play or something like
Yeah,
that.
so we have to figure that, and we're trying to research other jurisdictions. This is, not something that you see everywhere.
So,
Um,
so after that 2 year period, how long will it take to get these people a permit?
It would be the same process as the special family lot where they'd
Okay.
file affidavits and it would go through building and zoning.
All right.
They'd review everything and it'd probably go on consent.
So do you know when we're gonna be able to get those 2 lots straight?
I don't have a timeline right now. We have to adopt the ordinance first and then we'll have to run them.
Okay.
We have to develop a whole new program for that,
Okay,
but we are working on it.
so that's in process right
Yes,
now,
sir.
I'm sure.
It is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Any more discussion on this? Let's go back and do the, annual review for our county manager. Who's doing the presentation? Is somebody doing a presentation on that?
You have not.
You have to approve and
adopted
adopt
or
consent.
approved the agenda yet.
So we're not doing a presentation.
No, right here, sir.
Okay.
Approve and adopt consent.
I make
Move
a
to
motion
approve it.
Go ahead.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign?
No, Rocky was right.
Yeah, you were
We need
right,
a motion
Commissioner.
to
I'm sorry. My
Yeah,
glasses failed me. I'm sorry.
yeah, okay. It says annual review. for
No, you're right.
county
You're right.
managers.
You thought
My
your glasses
apologies.
messed up.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Do we need a motion to
Told you
adopt?
not
or
to
not?
listen to lawyers.
Yeah, we need a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Motion to adopt consent agenda.
Got a motion and a second to adopt. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like that? Can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
That was it.
Got a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Foreman, we're gonna go back to you. Let's talk about the adoption hearing. Resolution number 2023 R-19.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I got you out of order. Do you want to do the manager review? Real
No,
quick?
I mean, well, you want to,
I got you out of order. I messed
Yeah.
you up. It's actually above the manager review.
right. Well, let's go ahead and do the manager review then.
What are we gonna have?
Typically, we
Motion?
are required to do this by the charter. It does not say we have to comment or move or vote on it. It just says that you have to submit it by this board meeting.
Well, I think everybody's already read the article in the paper. You got a pretty favorable review, so. I think we're good on that.
All
So
right.
let's go ahead and do,
Yes, sir.
for Mr. Foreman.
So Brad Cruz and Mike Tice have filed a petition to vacate a portion of Southwest Honer Lane. I've given you a map in there. They're looking to go ahead and set the adoption hearing for later this month and have already started with their publication of notice so that they'll make the 2-week requirement. Asking for adoption of resolution 2023 R-19 to set the hearing for May 18th.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2023 R-19.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Now, are we gonna set a date?
It's set in the resolution.
Okay.
Yes, sir. All right.
Now the fun stuff.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'll proceed on the residential PACE lending issue.
Yes.
So I've provided a memorandum to the board in your agenda packets. I don't normally try to make those 2 pages long, but it required some explanation. Basically, you guys deliberated on last year whether or not you were going to allow residential PACE lending in Columbia County. And you remember your property appraiser and tax collector expressed concerns. And those were weighed. Your Economic Development Advisory Board had recommended commercial PACE, CPACE, which is a different program. Through those deliberations, you guys agreed with the Economic Development Advisory Board and said, we'll do CPACE, but not residential. Okay? Unbeknownst to any of us, really, across the state, one of the PACE lenders was going through a bond validation proceeding in circuit court in Leon County. And it was Florida PACE funding versus the state of Florida and every property owner in the state of Florida. Is how that was styled up. They were able to get language in that order that essentially recognized the PACE funding agency, that particular PACE funding agency, as a local government that was authorized to do business in all 67 counties with or without the approval of the local government. Okay. Obviously, we never agreed to that because we voted not to do residential lending. After that order came through, they, as best we can tell, and the tax collectors here, the property appraisers here, we've all been kind of looking at this for the last week or so pretty closely. It appears they hit the ground running. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't say anything to us about anything. By the time we discovered this issue had emerged, they already had 6 liens of record. They're now up to 8 liens of record. They're literally going door to door in Columbia County and Lake City selling PACE loans, residential PACE loans that you guys have expressly said you do not approve of. And they're doing it under this order out of the Leon County Circuit Court. We are not the only county that's been blindsided by this. I've included a couple of letters from other county attorneys who've expressed their dismay about this to the point that they threatened to just cancel all PACE lending entirely. I don't know that we're necessarily there. But I do feel compelled to ask for the direction of the board. Would you like me to join those other county attorneys in objecting? I think based on your past deliberations and the separation of powers issues it's creating, we probably should object. We should put something in writing. The other issue is, and this will be a pretty complex legal issue for all the tax collectors across the state, are the tax collectors, the 67 tax collectors, now obligated to collect these loans, even if their county commission or even if their city councils did not tell them to do so? Okay? Because it's very clear under statute that where the county approves an assessment, legally approves an assessment, or a city or municipality legally approves an assessment, the tax collector's ministerial duty is to collect that tax. What's not happened here is any approval at the local level. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Joe, I mean, we're a home rule county, aren't we?
100%, yes, sir.
So we have the right to say we're gonna collect this or not collect it, right?
And you're making the exact legal argument that we would
Yeah,
like to address.
yeah, let them loan it.
Yeah.
We just,
Well, so now here's the other, where I was going with that is, and I did talk to Mr. Keene about this, and I think he's prepared to speak to you if you'd like to hear from him. I would like to prepare a resolution from this board supporting the tax collector in his decision not to collect this, so that he's not on an island in this.
You can get that.
I think that's a reflection. Now, I do want to share a couple of, unfortunately, really bad stories with the board that we've only learned in the last week, and the reason we think this needs to stop immediately. I think just yesterday, Mr. Keene met with a constituent who read the article in the paper and said, I got one of those loans. And as she ran through the details, it's going to take her 40 years to pay off a roof. That roof won't be around in 40 years.
Yeah.
But the worst part is her tax bill that was under $1,000 and was being paid through escrow by her mortgage servicer is now going to over $2,000 now, over $3,000,
Yeah.
which is being paid through escrow by her mortgage company. Well, if you know how mortgage companies and escrow work, they're going to pass that back through to her in the form of an increased mortgage payment. She can't afford an increased mortgage payment. She is now going to be at risk of losing her home to conventional foreclosure because this PACE loan got tacked on. Now, you can't prepay these loans. They have prepayment penalties. Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, the federal lending mortgage insurers, won't issue loans where a home is encumbered by a PACE loan because they don't allow for properties to be purchased subject to superior liens. And so the home's not going to be very saleable because this lien is attached. For that reason, we may have to take, and we're going to follow sort of the lead of other larger counties that have larger staffs, but we may need to affirmatively go after these loans to get them set aside because they've issued these loans under the auspices of the power of Columbia County to collect the money. And so this is the very first step of me advising you of what's probably going to become a very large issue. Now, we are thinking that we have some relief from the legislature. We think a bill is going to go through that'll get passed into law that will clarify that the local government means the sitting local government in the county where the tax collector sits. That
That'll
should
be next session, correct?
Well, no, they're working. I
No,
think they got it done
okay.
this
I think they're
session.
gonna approve
Yeah,
it this
this all mushroomed very, very quickly, and Tax Collectors Association got active and went forward with this. But you're still, best case scenario, you've got 8 homeowners in Columbia County who are going to be adversely affected by this. And so we may, and I'm going to look into what our options may be, but I may come to you and say, can we assist those homeowners?
Basically, this is exactly what's happening is what we said here and said was gonna happen
And
at the
it's-
meeting that night.
It's what your
We
tax
said we
collector.
didn't want this to be residential A residential program.
And Commissioner, that's where the home rule issue kicks in. It's not like you had no idea. You specifically voted not to allow this because of what your tax collector and your property appraiser shared with you about the program. You said, this is too risky. And exactly what they told you could happen is what is happening. And so we need to, what I would like to have from the board, if it pleases the board, is a motion directing me to join with these other counties in opposing this.
So moved.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and I agree with the board 100%.
God,
We need to-
this is like
we need to
car
get on
loans
this
or something. This
immediately.
is crooked as it gets.
Sounds to me like a bail bond operation.
Yeah. Hey, is
And what was worse,
I don't get my money. Joel, is
Then
that
they-
called highway robbery?
what is
I
worse
wanna-
is when they did
Tim, at
these
least you
things,
got the option to run off from mine.
Okay.
they never notified the county, tax collector, property appraiser, anybody. They just did it.
Unbelievable.
So I do want to caution the board, what they're doing in their mind, because of that order from a judge in circuit court in Leon County, they're going to take the position what they're doing is perfectly legal. Now, we've talked 100 times. Legal is not always the same thing as right. And so I think what we have to do here is collect our legal arguments, which I think are many, but mobilize them in the interest of doing what's right. And that's where I look to you guys to tell me what's right and wrong. And I hear what you're saying loud and clear. I'll bring a resolution. I'll work with Mr. Keene. I'll bring a resolution for you guys at the May 18th meeting to support him and not collect.
So don't you think our biggest legal thing is that we can direct the tax collector not to collect, and then that makes it a moot point, really?
Right. Well, you're going to support him in his decision. He's going to exercise his constitutional authority, but it is true. The statute says that if you guys directed him to collect it, he'd have to, right? He wouldn't have discretion. But when you haven't, right, and it's some other outside aid, say, hey, will you collect this for me? He has a little more discretion. So we want to
Yeah.
support him in his
Okay.
exercise of discretion.
But Joel, did I understand you to say in that conversation just then that the tax collector cannot refuse to collect?
If you guys pass a legal and valid assessment, right, and it gets passed to his office, he has to do his duty. If a local government does that, what the argument here is, these guys aren't local at all. Even though they call themselves a local government, they're not. They're not based here in any way, shape, or form. So, and you didn't enter into you entered into an interlocal agreement with the CPACE lenders to do CPACE, and that's what gives them their local government status. You never did that with the residential side. So you've never participated, therefore there's no mandate to the tax collector to collect.
And they know they're walking a line here. They know this can go either way, so.
They wrote, and I included in the agenda package, what most people viewed as a very aggressive, hostile letter saying, hey, we'd really like you to sign an agreement because it'd be better for all of us, but we don't care if you do or not. We're still going to come make the loans. And that was met as a hostile gesture by just about every person who read it. So I don't know that they think they're walking a line as much as they think they've got the law on their side and they're just going to plow forward.
Well, I think we need to move forward with it as quick as possible. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Thank you, Kyle, for bringing this to our attention. And I think you hit the nail on the head originally when you brought it to us and said, this is exactly what's going to happen. We all agreed this is going to happen. And now here we are. So,
Board, at
Are
this
we-
time, would we
are we-
not be doing our diligence to maybe put the PACE commercial status on hold? I mean, what's your opinion there, Joe?
So one of the county attorneys, I think it was Pasco County Attorney, kind of intimated that, hey, if y'all don't get this straightened out, we're going to cancel all PACE. I don't know how much CPACE is actually in process right now.
got one.
Yeah, just one. And again, remember on the commercial side, you kind of have a greater deal of deference because they're commercial borrowers. And so you expect that they understand the finances better. So I don't-
You're talking about millions of dollars. They're going to have lawyers involved. looking
Yeah,
out for both
I mean, it would
parties.
be up to y'all whether or not you want to do that, whether or not, I don't know that necessarily makes sense with this particular, just one lender doing it. I don't know if it makes sense to, now we can intimate that in our letter, which I intended to do was, if we can't get along, we're just not going to.
Now, is there any type of a step we could take to one of our circuit judges to put a
I'm gonna
a
research
kill on
that.
this?
I'm
you
gonna
know,
research
in
that.
Columbia County, if
Yes,
nothing else.
I'm gonna research that. Well, we're gonna put them on notice that they are not authorized and we don't want them to make any more. The problem is these guys go at about 100 miles an hour. 'Cause again, just last week we looked, there were 6. 2 days later, there were 7. And then as of yesterday, there's 8.
Right.
So, I mean,
And while we're trying to work this out, there's gonna be 10 more. You know, that's
which
what
is
I'm
why
worried about.
we brought this as quickly as we could. We just want the direction. We're going to go back after them immediately to try to shut them down. The issue where we're probably going to ultimately come down is determining whether or not we want to try to assist the affected homeowners, because these people will have no way of dealing with this issue. Zero. The people that are having to take these loans to fix their houses are having to take these loans because they don't have other money. So they definitely don't have money to hire attorneys. So if there's enough of them involved, you can call this an issue of public importance. You can assert a public purpose, and you can direct me to go try to assist them.
So this is just a way, like Tim's saying, I get that some other attorney said, you know, if you just stopped it all, what if we did do that? I mean, I know we got one commercial loan pending, but you know, commercial loans, they typically aren't as desperate as the people. And I'm worried that could we just say no more at all until we get this worked out? Because would that stop it, or that wouldn't stop it?
Well, I was going to follow Pasco County's lead. Their attorney basically said, look, if we don't straighten this out in pretty short order, we will do that.
Okay.
So I think you hold it out and say, look, if we can't get this particular issue straightened out, we'll just shut it all down.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you shut it all down first and then, because
Yeah.
then you kind of disincentivize them.
It's a catch-22, somebody.
What type of aggressive steps should we as board take to notify our constituents?
So the article in the paper did well, right? It garnered a call to Mr. King. I think if the board would like to, you know, maybe some social media alerting people that, hey, these are not Columbia County loans. Don't let anybody tell you they are. You can't really, you know, at this juncture, we're not going to be there collected. So these people are out there making loans, as far as I'm concerned, they're on risk because they don't have a collection arm.
Or have we contacted everyone that has taken one?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Are we allowed to do that? I mean,
certainly.
okay, well, I
Absolutely.
have a list. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think if you recognize any of those constituents that are in the liens that.
I'll
have been
recognize
shared
them.
with
I'll find them.
you, And then, I mean, that's part of Kyle's purpose in getting that to you. But we definitely want to make sure the public's aware that this is not something that the county has endorsed. This is not something the county's doing.
And we can post it on our social media.
And I think, you know, if
I
that's.
think we definitely need to do that. And myself and Kyle had a discussion last night about the upcoming assessment that you would set out, right, Kyle? How many thousands was it roughly? About 40,000. You know, we send out something at that time, if this is not resolute, that, you know, bright pink, something other, don't deal with PACE or however you want to do that. Because it's tough to reach everybody, you know, but
One
it's,
thing is, these assessments may not appear on your trim notices. They may publish their own trim notices.
right. Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I know we're depending on an article in the paper to inform people, but it might be to our advantage to take out an ad. And so we can really get the
Okay.
point.
It's a good idea.
Just take out a big ad and explain everything in that ad. And then we have done all we can do then to inform the people.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Mhm.
We need to do that in a motion or?
You can take
You can just
direction.
direct it.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Direction.
So
Let's not do one like that. Let's do at least a half page. Wouldn't you think, Ron?
Yeah.
So Joel, if we're not gonna collect this money, those other people, do they have a binding law that they're gonna be able to collect it themselves?
Well, so the issue that you're always going to run into, they did loan the money, right? They did loan the money. And in those cases, like the lady that Kyle talked to yesterday, she's very happy with the roof, right? She got a beautiful new roof. And she didn't get overcharged for it or anything like that. So it's a loan. If we're not going to collect it, they'll come up with some other way to collect it.
She would be better off to go get a loan and pay them off and pay it.
But the
I love
issue with
the-
her is she's without,
She can't
she's
get-
without credit. She's without
Prepaid
finance.
thing, too.
So it's going to,
Oh, yeah, the prepaid penalty too, I guess.
and it has a prepaid penalty. That's right.
You know, I thought it was illegal to do a
Golly,
prepaid
that-
penalty in Florida.
They're authorized by statute.
That is
All-
amazing.
This is all a creature of legislature. So we got to.
But if we did not authorize them to do this, how can they do it legally?
Well, that's the
Well,
question.
In my,
The statute is sort
in
of
this old
vague.
head, I ain't so sure this is a legal deal.
And that's where we are.
That's where.
That's exactly the argument we're making.
We need to know that.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on. Mr. Kirby?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I have 5 items for your consideration inclusive of your walk-on. The first item is very important. For example, in Commissioner Phillips' district, we have a dirt to pave conversion ready to go with the exception of a little bit of property acquisition. Our current acquisition agent left us, so we took a look at 2 firms. We're recommending the motion to award RFP 2023J to both bidders, Twisted Oaks Real Estate and Laura Nettles, to approve real estate brokerage service agreements.
Explanation of the difference of hours, Kevin.
So Mrs. Nettles was pretty much in line with the former agent at $70 per hour and a 7% brokerage rate. And Twisted Oaks, Ms. Craig, come in at $28 an hour. This is the fourth group that I've seen. I've never seen it at 28, but that's where she come in at. The purpose of recommending both is for more than one reason. And you're going to see something here in a few minutes on another slide. We go through phases. We do a lot of acquisition. And if one gets real busy, this is a sidebar job for these guys. These are real estate agents. They come in to help us. It's usually little slivers of land most of the time is what we're doing. And it's a very laborious time task. So our thought process was to never get in the situation we're in right now. When the last guy resigned, it put the brakes on several projects. Does that make sense? And, but there is a significant difference in the hourly rate. The hourly rate that Ms. Nettles has formed is compatible with what's been in the past.
I have one question. Ms. Nettles is on our planning and zoning board, correct?
She is.
So is that not a conflict?
It's not. She's
Well, I
not.
was told before that was a conflict. Somebody wanted to be on the planning and zoning board before. If he was gonna be on the planning and zoning board, he couldn't be our broker for property. So, I mean, evidently I was given some bad information at that time, one or the others.
So the way that conflict works when you're on an appointed board is she can't be on another board that has any sovereign authority from any governmental agencies. That's the dual office holding prohibition. In terms of a conflict of interest under 112, is it theoretically possible that there could be scenarios where she'd have a conflict? Maybe. I mean, we'll give that some thought, but that would be the argument for having Ms. Craig as an alternate. Yeah, no, Mr. Ford, we can talk about whatever that conversation was that you'd heard. We'll talk through that one too. Maybe there was a different reason that there was a conflict on that one. But
I'm sure that was the information I received also on the previous acquisition agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know that, I know Kevin needs these people like now, correct, Kevin? I mean, we got issues that we need acquisition agent today, correct?
Yes, sir. Laura's serving as our interim because we were getting so far behind. Yes, sir. I mean, once again, in a few minutes, you're going to see a lot of capital projects. This is just a major part of what we do to achieve those capital projects.
Okay, board, do I have a motion?
So move.
Got a motion, second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, the next is bid number 2023-01. This is your parking lot at Southside Sports Complex. You had 6 responsive bidders. McCray Construction was low. I'm requesting a motion, I'm requesting a motion to award the bid to McCray Construction for the total bid amount of $357,527.05 and to approve the construction agreement.
I make a motion to accept bid number 2023-01.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries.
Board, I'd just like to point out that this money's been rolling over and over in the budget for several years now, right, Kevin?
Yes, sir.
This is savings from the original, improvements to Southside that was actually left over when we did the concession stands, a couple other projects and what have you. And, long time coming. Now all of our Swanee River issues are completed at Southside today, as long as we don't dig another shovel.
There you go. There you go.
Till they find out we're something new.
Okay.
Okay. The next is a housekeeping issue. Back in December of 2022, the board agreed to contribute $2.5 million over a period of time for basically the intersection improvements at 247 and Bascom Norris. This is a housekeeping issue, a resolution to approve and execute LFA for 247 and Bascom Norris in the amount of $2.5 million and adopt resolution number 2023-R18.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Kevin, before we vote, when do we expect construction to start on this project? Do we know?
So you got two different things going on. Assuming it makes it past the governor's office, we were successful with a grant that will be firm in July of this year to resurface right beyond Brantford Highway back to State Road 47. Okay, that's Bascom Norris. This is FDOT, the intersection, the improvements to Brantford Highway and the improvements to Bascom Norris going back through the fairgrounds. My memory's right, 26, but don't hold me to that. If you recall, we did 500,000 annual for X amount of period of time, and then we helped out in Ellisville when we partnered up with DOT, but 2026 is on my mind.
Well, I know we've got a lot of road improvements lined up for that area. Is it going to all kind of be taking place at one time or?
Okay, so well, jog your memory back, we initially put monies towards the resurfacing of our Bascom Norris from Brantford Highway to State Road 47. This came about, and then Ellisville came about. So at the end of the day, you're going to have two separate contracts. You're going to have the resurfacing and then these improvements. On top of that, we had a meeting this week with a proposed development right across from the ball fields. So we're talking about a private-public partnership as it relates to improving the turn lanes, et cetera, for all that. Of course, that'll be on their dime. But what we don't want to have is multiple phases of construction all in that congested area. If we're lucky, we're only going to have two phases. The resurfacing, is it Mary Ethel? Am I thinking right? Mary Ethel, SR 47, inclusive of the improvements for the new housing developments, and then this by FDOT the other way.
Mhm.
Well, this ought to be, I'll say, I'll be glad when this gets done. It'll be a major improvement for that area right there. Any more discussion, board?
When did you say it was gonna start?
So for clarification, if we get our monies in July for our side of things, we're working with the housing developers. They're going through all their permitting process, et cetera. There's three different developments. And what we don't want to do, Commissioner Phillips, is go in there, redo the highway, and right after that, then come in with all the turn lanes, scab it all together. We want to make it all inclusive. Our monies will be available in July. You do all the design, permitting, and all that good stuff. Their monies will come into play with a private-public partnership. We'll get all that constructed, I hope, in early part of 24. The DOT side, I think, is in 26 to do their side.
Kevin, from now on, when we're doing engineering, one of the requirements I want to have for engineering is a schedule. I want a timeline of when we can expect everything. I want engineers to provide a schedule.
You're on a critical path, is what you want.
Exactly.
I'll second and third that.
Commissioner Ford, it's already in place. We've started. We've started, yes, sir.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. So the next item goes kind of, when I was mentioning a while ago, the right-of-way or land acquisition folks. Quality assurance, quality control for new subdivision construction. We begin to experience growth again. Existing subdivisions that have been submitted to building and zoning include Terra Luna phases 1 and 2, Forest Cove, cottages at the preserves Highlands, what I was just talking about, the housing development on Bascom, Hunters Creek and Tennis Forever. Due to workload of current staff, it appears to be difficult monitoring, performing inspection of construction for these new subdivisions. So what are we currently working on? East Side Wastewater Treatment Facility, Ellisville Sewer Expansion, North Florida Intermodal Port Treatment Plant, Ellisville Fort White Water Line, South Side Rec Parking Lot, Mayo Road, Cypress Lake, Charles, Parnell Hills, High Dry Acres, Double Run Road, English, Ella Marion, Queen, Chambria, and Winfield, and Burley Road. County Road 6, Academic Way, Emerald Lakes, Mellon and Roll, Gabriel, Thomas, and Heflin are resurfacing projects. So the purpose of this discussion is we currently have 2 QC guys. Now, we all know what has happened recently with a subdivision out on Lake River Highway. There's 3 or 4 ways we can capture this. Obviously, with this volume of projects, we don't have a person there monitoring what I call critical paths, as Commissioner Williams indicated. You know, when they're laying the pipe, you go into all these older subdivisions, every cross drain, there's a little dip, right? We can always hire an engineering firm, come out $55, $60 an hour to help us when we're in binds. We can continue doing like we're doing, what I call spot checking. I'm of the opinion with the growth we've got, especially all these new subdivisions, that we need to put a 3rd QC person on. But that's what I wanted to talk with the board today. This is coming, guys, and it's coming fast. And if we're going to maintain quality, Mr. Hollingsworth says it the best way. Sometimes our developers come in, they get the money, contractors get the money. We're immediately right behind them working with tax dollars. It's just a volume of work. 2 guys are not going to cover the details. So,
Yes, sir.
I'm for hiring county employees to put at these locations. I'm dealing with a subdivision now that we shouldn't even be being aggravated with, built completely wrong. And now we accepted it. We come to find out that it's built completely wrong by spot checking. We need somebody that should be there on site to look at this work as it's being done.
And I agree with Mr. Williams, Commissioner Williams. I have people in my district that build houses where they thought houses were supposed to be. This will say, we'll more than pay for his position and probably 2 more of them with what we'll save in making sure that it's all done correctly.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. We all know the cost of building these roads, the money we're investing in these roads, not to have somebody out there looking out for our interests.
And when we take them over,
I think that would be, that's just something we shouldn't do. You know, we should have somebody looking out, making sure.
Is
these
one
roads are
enough?
built.
So for right now, I mean, like I said, we've had 2 for a long, 15 years probably. But the volume, obviously, it's just 2's not enough anymore.
so 1 is enough. Do we need to? Okay.
I'm of the opinion, I think we can. You know, because you don't need somebody there all the time, but at the critical paths you do. And as some of y'all indicated, I mean, it's done and it's over with by the time we realize it. Then they're moved on, and then we have problems.
And we're back spending $50,000 trying. Yeah.
Kevin, with the modifications that we made to the procedure of developing these subdivisions, what kind of a exposure are we going to have? Developer, their engineers debating with our guy, because at the end of the day, we're requiring a set of certified as-builts, which is going to cut, we're like what Ron's going to, we'll have to do that. But my question is, okay, we go out here and do a subdivision today, and we'll just say, for instance, just like you just said a minute ago, our guy ain't going to be there every day. But how does that work, Kevin, as far as, you know, not putting the county at risk for a debate, so to speak?
Okay, that's a good question. We did form what I call an index. That's going to be a moving target as we're moving forward to monitor these jobs, as-built surveys, et cetera. The challenge you run into, and it's just been an industry practice since I can recall, you have these various companies that the contractors hire to provide QC reports. You know, belongs to have 6 inches of lime rock. Yep, got 6 inches of rock. Has density, so forth and so on. I can name 2 or 3 jobs we're dealing with right now. They've got that pretty report that says everything's perfect, but everything's not perfect. I mean, it's not, there will never be a conflict as it results in like litigation. And I shouldn't say ever, but what we're requiring via the index is at the end of the day, post-construction, okay? What this person's for is during construction, to go in there and validate basically a QA, a quality assurance method. Okay, you say you got density on your cross train. Well, I'm there looking at the guy doing it. Sure it is. You say you're putting 1.5 inches asphalt instead of just taking a core on a little report. I'm there watching it get 1.5 inches asphalt. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's 2 different ways. And we took a huge step in the index. In my opinion, this is just another step to prevent us from having things like you're discussing, Commissioner Williams.
But
And
again,
a man
we're-
told me something a while ago, a few days ago, that made a lot of sense to me. All the good land's gone. We get real complicated subdivisions, real elevation changes and all. The flat piece of dirt, they're all developed. That's what's really bringing this to our attention, is these subdivisions are becoming much more urban, if you may.
And I guess that's what I'm leading to, is the fact that this person, whoever he or she may be, is not going to be your average Joe that just graduated high school and going to go through a couple weekend certifications.
Oh, no.
This person's going to have some education, experience, and this ain't going to be a $30,000 a year person.
Oh, no, sir. We've got one guy with 40 plus years experience, another with 25 years on board now. Sure.
But the subdivision world, I would assume, kind of falls into a different, it definitely does. It touches on the road construction part of it, but, there's
No.
definitely people that's built, Kevin Kirby's built roads, you ain't built a sub, you know what I'm saying? But
And that's not what I'm targeting here. I'm gonna give an example. We just had one in Commissioner Hollisworth District that the engineer proposed at the end of the day, all the lots to be graded by the purchase of the homeowners to facilitate drainage. Well, I've got a lot going on, and fortunately me and Chad caught that.
Yeah.
But we're not there every day, all day to catch that. Was whoa, that's not gonna work.
that's right.
We're not gonna pass that on to a homeowner to buy it, then have to hire a contractor to grade it to ensure drainage. That's the kind of stuff we're trying to get ahead of.
Gotcha, yeah.
And that's just, it's kind of like these loans. That ain't right. That ain't right.
Do we have a motion on this?
I am requesting a motion, yes, sir.
You're asking for a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move we take, Kirby's address and, utilize option 3, as the inspector as a county employee.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Like sign? Motion carries.
Okay, sir. The final item I have, I consider time sensitive this week. As you well know, we're getting in the animal control business. In the process of trying to set all that program up, we got ready to permit our little piece of the world out there at the Humane Society. Well, what we bumped into was the improvements that they made, nothing to do with us. Here in the last year or two, let's just say they're about 400% overboard with the pervious area versus the permit required. Okay? So I was given marching orders, let's go. So if for that to happen, we're going to have to catch that problem with our little piece of the pie. What does that mean? Roughly $20,000 of real money of design, permit, possible mitigation, and I will self-perform all the work in-house, retention pond, construction, et cetera, engineering, all that stuff. The purpose of me bringing this to the board's attention today, if we're going to remote, and this really throws a stump in the road, if we're going to be ready in October to be in the animal control business, somebody has to do this. Okay? So I'm needing direction from the board. I just want to be very transparent. It's at least $20,000 of real money, and that's me doing everything in-house with heavy equipment, labor, engineers, materials, all that stuff.
And you said they're what percentage over?
400. But bottom line is they did a lot of work out there and just did not get the required permits. So when we got ready to pull our little permit to do our little project, it triggered all that stuff.
So let me clarify. So basically, what the Humane Society's got going on now as far as construction, they didn't permit enough area to do what they're doing. Is that what you're saying?
Anytime you do commercial work,
Mhm.
you have to get Swanee River involved, management.
Right.
So we got ready to pull our little permit for whatever it was, 1,1600 square foot of impervious to pervious, backwards. When we got ready to do that, they were like, wait a minute, what about all this other? So unless we go and divide out a piece of property and call it our own, and then irregardless, the notice of violations would still come on the other side. For it to go fast, the only way to do it is capture it all as one project, is what I'm saying. We're in a bind, guys. It's just that simple. We're trying to go out there, get set up shop, build our temporary kennels for overnight weekends, and we were just moving along fast. We got the trucks coming, we got the uniforms coming, the dog cages coming, everything moving fast, and then we bumped into this Tuesday.
Kevin, and again, we may get down there at the end and this thing all blow up a year from now. We go move somewhere else. Have we thought about reaching out to the school board in that area where I used to call the deer pen? We're getting the portable from them, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why don't we just, if the school board would allow us, can we not just move it right over there on the school board's field and lease it from them, or, on this trial basis? 'Cause
So
it sounds like we fix to take full responsibility of 400% overbill.
let me break that down in phases. The $20,000 real money and the work, it is what it is. It's all doable. It just costs money and costs time. We're kind of at the mercy of everybody with the way we're doing this. We're working with the humane side because we're only building kennels, I think it's 7, to accommodate night and weekends. So we're kind of following the lead. Where do you want us to put the building? Where do you want us to put the kennels? Can we do this? Can we do that? Everybody's working good together. But I don't have to say it, we're at their mercy.
So what, if you was recommending to us, what would you recommend? Build it out here on our property?
No, sir. You cannot afford that right now. No, that's the whole reason we're doing what we're doing. As Commissioner Murphy indicated, this might fall apart.
Yeah.
But before we go spend north of $500,000 or $600,000 on building all those big kennels and all that, this is a reasonable option.
Well,
So to answer your question, if you want to be in the dog business in the immediate future, you're going to swallow this pill and move on. That's it in a nutshell.
well, my recommendation would be, if we spend the money, let's spend the money, but let's negotiate it in our contract. I mean, the Humane Society should have some
They should have
skin
some
in the
dog in the
game of
fight.
doing this. I mean, at the end of the day, we're signing a contract with them for $360,000. Surely they ought to pay half of this off that contract price. If it's $20,000, negotiate them for half of it. You know what I'm saying? Off of that 365, we give them 355.
Yeah, because I can't believe.
Have we talked with the Humane Society about this?
No.
Yeah, well, not about this particular instance. This came up yesterday. We have a draft contract that they are reviewing, and we should have that on our next agenda.
But that's something we could approach them about.
Is this going to clean up their problem also, Kevin?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, so
That's what triggered all this.
Okay.
Our problem.
We're spending money we didn't assume we were going to have to spend.
And
And we're doing it in-house, which is a whole lot more money. So I feel like they ought to bear some of the brunt of the responsibility in my mind now.
Well, it
That's
sounds
just-
like to me, they're gonna be responsible for doing something out there anyway.
that's
Whether
the
we move
point.
out there or not, somebody's gonna have to fix this
Yeah,
problem.
it's going to have to be fixed.
Somebody's gonna fix it.
And,
But
But
if we
if
have-
we're gonna be timely, we're the only people in position to do
well,
it.
I thought 365 was a little extravagant to start with on how.
And now we're at 385.
So,
But that's still better than trying to go out the road.
I
I
agree,
understand,
but
I
I'm just saying-
understand, but
we're fixing their problem.
it's a
They ought to-
negotiation,
They ought to work with us some more.
Yeah.
Because really and truly, at the end of the day, it's not gonna cost them any money. It's just gonna come off their contract with us to house our animals.
It's only fair if they'll, But I understand what you're saying. We're at their mercy, but.
Mr. Chairman, I'm basically requesting a motion to fund the permitting issue at the Humane Society and facilitate or allow me to self-perform the work as needed.
So move.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Have fun, Mr. Curtis.
They hit some extra wire around.
What chapter is that gonna be in, what chapter is that gonna be in the book?
Mr. Kraus.
Yes, sir. My items should be relatively short. Most of them are on the agenda because of the size and nature of them. They're not terribly controversial. First one is interlocal agreement for summer youth employment. I know this was an issue last year, but we've been doing this every year. Only once have we had a problem. We've got that taken care of. Basically, the City of Lake City's Police Department works with Florida Crown. They take all these high school students, they hire them, they put them in jobs to give them jobs experience, give them soft skills, teach them how to have jobs so that they can move forward. We would like to participate in this again, placing people at the library and certain other locations at the county, and ask your approval to execute the tri-party agreement.
I move that we approve the interlocal agreement with Career Source Florida.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
The next one is the allocation of DEO grant funds. You've actually approved and executed the agreement previously, but the monies weren't put where the clerk's office wanted us to put the money. So this is a moving $65,000 for that particular grant to the place that the clerk felt was a comfortable place to locate it.
So move to execute the agreement.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
The next thing is also a kind of a clerical thing, but because it's a very large dollar amount, we put it on your agenda. Basically, the way we appropriated the money in last year's budget for all these grant monies to go for all of these utility capital projects, we felt was a good way to do it. The clerk's office, meeting with the utility director and the finance officer, Amy, felt that there may be a better way to account for it. So they wanted to move the monies this way and then account for each grant individually as a project code. So instead of having individual account numbers for all the money, put all the grant monies in easy to find places, but have project codes so that you know that this much of this money goes towards this project, this much of the money goes to another project. Just trying to make it easier for them to account for the money.
I make a motion to approve BA 23-54.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Before I call for a vote, I would like to just point out too, that this is the money coming, some of this money is coming from the landfill for the leachate also in
Yes,
this
this
fund,
would,
right?
this would institute a transfer from the landfill fund to the utility fund for the LEH8 project.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries.
The next one is the state 911 rural grant. We do this all the time. It is the maintenance and stuff. They've added additional terms and conditions to the rural grant, which is in your package. So that's why we brought this back up. We're asking you to appropriate the $110,702 for the maintenance of our 911 equipment and include the acceptance of the grant with the additional, brand new additional terms and conditions for rural grants.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries.
And
This
that's all I
time-
have until updates.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's go ahead and do the county manager update before we do the 3-minute comment.
All right, stop. We're gonna change the order a little bit. Basically, I want to start by bringing Stash up here. So if you have any questions of what's been going on in the legislature, we can update you. There's been not just financial things, but issues that you've been interested in that you need to update. Like for instance, term limits did not get through the bills. And so Stash is basically going to give you a quick update of what happened in Tallahassee.
Good morning, Commissioners. All right, first I just want to say that we have a very stellar legislative delegation, Senator Bradley and Representative Brannon. They have helped us out a lot this session. I want to start with the appropriations. First, the appropriations do have to get past the governor's muster, so anything that's not vetoed, we will get. 5.7 million was allocated for the North Florida Mega Industrial Park Water Treatment Plant. This is to complement the wastewater treatment plant that we're already putting in. 1.29 million to repave Bascom Norris from Southwest Faith Road to State Road 47. 980,000 for the Sheriff's Crime Lab, Evidence Room and Maintenance Bay. 950,000 to assist in replacing Fire Station 51. This was the only project that was not fully funded. And 475,000 for the Bethlehem Community Center. In terms of policy and other appropriations, term limits for county commissioners died. The major FRS change that affects counties is that the employers will have to put in 2% more for employees that are on the investment side. And over 100 million was allocated for small county road programs, 28 million in scrap, 87 in SCOP. The small county road assistance program and the small county, I believe that's operations program. 100 million was over 100 million was allocated for broadband programs and digital expansion, and significant funding for infrastructure and water across the state, including 50 million in springs, 200 million in wastewater programs. Currently, there are some bills relating to grants and rural counties. One of the biggest biggest bills that relates to that is that since we are an ARAO, we will not have to put up the money up front and then get reimbursed. The states will pay off the invoices for us because we are in that rural classification. That is currently not on the governor's desk, but I believe it has one stop to go in the Senate. Tomorrow is the last day of session. 80 million to support Visit Florida. Another big House priority was that Enterprise Florida will be gone and the Department of Economic Opportunity will be renamed the Department of Commerce. However, some of the incentives that Enterprise Florida had powers to give out will be transferred to the newly renamed Department of Commerce. Two other issues I'll just bring up. We talked about the PACE issue. I did check on that. There was a bill filed there was an amendment filed onto the PACE bill in the Senate as of earlier this week or late last week. It passed the Senate basically stating that PACE residential cannot do business within a county that has not authorized it or had not gone into the interlocal agreement. I don't know how, but it must have died in the House or is still stalled in the House. We'll continue to watch that through tomorrow. It looks like they're might be waiting on some of the lawsuits that are potentially pending, but if anything, that'll come up, I'm sure, next legislative session. And one of the other items that we had expressed interest in this legislative session is relation to electric vehicles. There was a Senate bill that would charge EVs on top of the regular registration, an annual license tax of $200 and then increasing to $250 in 2028. That did pass the Senate, but since it did not have a House companion, it wasn't added onto any Senate or any transportation package text. So that is an issue that will be dealt with next session. One thing that we will be looking at next session is our population designation related to SCRAP, the Small County Road Assistance Program, or the Repaving Assistance Program. That is a threshold of 75,000 people, and hopefully we can potentially look at working with others into increasing that threshold so that we can continue with SCRAP designation. And also, we will be bringing up the EVs to our legislative delegation again next session. So that's a big update. And if there's any questions, I can try to answer. If not, I can get back to you because I know there's a lot of bills still flying around.
A couple things adding on to what Josh was telling you about. The retirement was going to be a much larger hit. They really scaled that one back. We had actually stuck in some legislation regarding the assessment of agricultural land.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually turned out to be good for us, at least so far. The actual wording that we had stuck in there didn't pass, but they did modify it in a way that helps us, that will allow us to continue to move forward with the industrial park.
Yeah, so basically, There was a bill that was related to migrant worker housing on agricultural lands. The other half of that bill was that was taking the county's ability to assess agricultural lands.
We
So-
lost about $1 million in fire assessment.
Yeah, so we had brought that up via our lobbyist in Tallahassee and to the bill sponsors, and they were able to at least kind of water it down. And then all of a sudden, that component about the assessment had disappeared. Right now, Sessions contact sports, so it's kind of back and forth right now. So hopefully that's the case, and the county wouldn't have lost that 1 million in revenue.
There's something else.
Stosh, I don't have any questions, but I do want to say I appreciate what all you done during this legislative session for Columbia County. You, I credit you with a lot of us being so successful. You certainly spent time with us in Tallahassee, and you put us in contact with, of course, our lobbyists helped too, but I know you've done a lot putting us in contact with some of the right people. And I just want all the other commissioners to know what a great job you done for us over in Tallahassee this year.
Yeah, between he and our lobbyists, they did a heck of a job this year.
Absolutely. Yep.
We appreciate it, Stosh.
And our delegation did well keeping our issues on the forefront. So
One more
They weren't
year.
just financial issues, these were also these policies issues that were very important to the county that we wanted to make sure that the legislature knew about.
One more year, follow the Stosh around on legislative day, we'll know all the back halls of Tallahassee. He had us going down halls, we thought we was going to the cellar or something other, but I appreciate it. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate that too. I think we had some good meetings over there with the people that we met with the day that I was there. And they're, some of them we know as local people from here, so that helped out a whole lot.
and even the non-local delegation, I know we went and talked with Senator Ed Hooper's staff and out of Clearwater, and Representative Bobby Payne, who's next door to us, that they did appreciate getting another view on some of these issues.
And we're not gonna wait till next session. Those things that are policy related, we're gonna start assembling now so that we're ahead of the ballgame.
That's
for the
right.
next election.
Those committee weeks start in September.
Good deal.
Thank you a lot.
Yep, thank you.
Okay,
Also,
oh, I'm sorry, Dave. I thought-
as of yesterday, we now have a standard community center agreement fully executed with the Richardson Community Center board staff.
Good deal.
They will be
Amen.
treated just as every other community center. They have the same contract as every other community center, and that now can move forward. I'm
David,
sorry.
they are in the process now of getting a budget ready to
Mhm.
present to the board.
Yes. And their treasurer is over there, and she's working really hard on it. We had to rename the road that goes to the wastewater treatment plant because it was called Tire Road and nobody could find it if somebody got hurt. So we went ahead yesterday and renamed it Industrial Park Terrace. So your industrial park, your wastewater treatment, water treatment plant will be on this Industrial Park Terrace. That way, emergency response teams can find it if somebody does get hurt on the work site. That was a high priority for us. The Fort Wayne, yesterday was the utility committee meeting, so that's a lot of these updates are related to utilities simply because the utility committee met yesterday. The water line project should go out to bid in May. So we're hoping, bid process, obviously 2 months. So by end of July, we will actually hopefully have boots on the ground. Additionally, the Ellisville wastewater treatment plant should be operational by the end of May as well. So having said that, we have submitted the CDBG Economic Development Grant for the next phase of the expansion of the Ellisville wastewater treatment plant. As you have seen, apparently there was a news release about the Busy Bee coming to Columbia County and how large it's going to be. That will force us to have to expand that plant. And they're going to be the job provider that justifies acquiring the economic development funds. So once it's submitted, they'll come out, they'll do a site review, make sure everything's T's are crossed, I's are dotted. If it works out, then we would get the funding, start the environmental review, which takes about 6 months. So knock on wood, we'll have, be able to start working on that beginning of next year sometime. Finally, we have replaced all the Fort White residential water meters, and we're in the process of switching the utility billing system accordingly.
And we replaced the sand, the green sand, and we replaced the pressure tank.
We were in the process of doing that. I don't know if that's completed yet, but the water tank is. There's a
Water
brand
tank's
new
complete.
water tank in there. So we had basically made a trade. This board had made a trade with the town of Fort White that for $300,000 of money that we could use for improvements to their water system, we would give them $300,000 worth of equipment. And so we're almost completely spent on the $300,000 side of the improvements and have ordered the equipment. And the equipment is stuff that we can use on the utility side as well as the town using it for just regular town maintenance.
When will the bids be in on the water line from Ellisville to Fort White?
Plans and everything, it should be ready to go to bid in May. We were informed yesterday. And then, of course, you always have a couple month acquisition time, the purchase and the process, if you may. I think that's what kind of led Commissioner Ford's comments about timelines. This has been a very laborious process on the design and permitting side.
How complicated would it be to add infrastructure such as conduit or what have you for possible internet at a later date? In that hole, so to speak.
So our radio man Lawrence reached out to me about this.
I had a gentleman call me from Hargraves. Well, okay, go ahead.
So once again, this project is very needed for obvious reasons, the water line.
Right.
And it's like I told Lawrence, we need to be shovel ready in the future. It's all about funding. So common sense tells you once you got the trench open, it's real good to put as much as you can when you got the trench open. But you know, it's the chicken and egg theory. We got this project, so Lawrence is working real hard right now. We had this conversation Monday. You know, let's get mechanisms in place as all this growth is happening. Let's try to capture multiple projects under a project.
David, you have anything else?
I just saw something and escaped my mind. Now I gotta figure out what it was again.
Them two probably talked. That's why I got that call. Yes. Makes sense.
One of the legislative things that may interest you that we did not talk about because it didn't really affect us was we were talking with the Clay Electric people about broadband while we were out there at Rural Counties Days. They were committed to moving forward with broadband, but some things going on in the legislature blocked them from moving forward. One of which was they were trying to force them that if they went into broadband, it would have to be regulated by the PSC. Currently, cooperatives are not regulated by the PSC. They have to report to the PSC, but they're not regulated by the PSC. And there was something about a poll tax or something like that that they had to deal with. So, you know, we're trying to figure out what happened with that legislation and can they move forward. But you finally get Clay Electric ready to start doing broadband, and then they changes in the regulations change the economics of it. And I'm not sure if that will affect Swanee Valley or not.
Yeah, I had a conversation with them over there about that, and they basically told me if that goes into effect, they wouldn't be a part of doing any kind of cable or broadband.
Who was that, Swanee Valley?
No,
Yeah.
that's Clay Electric.
Clay also.
It could literally keep them out of the broadband business. They were ready to commit, and now they don't. They're just not certain.
I guess we need to talk to Swanee Valley, don't we?
Swanee,
Or Swanee Valley not?
they're still doing it.
Oh, they're doing it.
Okay.
There's no change there.
It didn't affect anyone. And one of the things Clay Electric explained to me was, you know, they're just one area like Columbia County.
Yeah.
And it's as big as all of Swanee Valley Electric. They're so much bigger. They serve so much bigger area than Swanee Valley Electric or
Yeah.
Central Florida Electric, you know, that it would just affect them so much, basically a lot harder than any of the rest of them to be under that control of that commission.
So while you don't hear a lot about broadband right now, there is a lot going on about broadband. And every time the regulations change, it changes people's business calculations on whether they can move forward or not.
Okay. All right, well, one thing that didn't get passed, y'all, was the term limits on county commissioners, so.
He'll be here another
Ronnie-
50 years.
Ron can be here another 20 years.
Can they stop it at 100 years?
Yeah. All right, we're gonna do some, 3-minute comments. Anybody else want to come up, speak? Come up.
You can't move.
Get 3 minutes before I start.
Somebody hit you or something? You all right? Damn.
That's like he slept wrong last night.
He's hanging around.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the report on the small county days. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. Plus, I'm curious to know how much we all spent, you folks going out there. I do have a question. The organizational chart, the county's been threatening to upgrade the organizational chart. And I was just wondering when that's going to happen. Is that on anybody's agenda? Or it's just going to stay the same and Kirby's going to run everything and he's the only one that answers to David Kraus?
We are going to have to change the organizational chart because we're creating a new department for animal control, or animal enforcement.
Thank you. Do you have any idea when that will be?
It's part of the budget process.
Okay, so it could be any time. The other thing, I've been watching what used to be Plum Creek. Peggy Clanton used to call that industrial park there the Port of the Segi Broad because of the way the signs looked. And then it was an intermodal park. And then I think it was something else. And now it's the North Florida Mega Industrial Park. It's been going on. I think I've been following that speck of land since around 2006 or 7. And now it's 15 years later. And there's not one thing there. It's a bunch of trees. Suwannee County gets our projects, Project Wave, multi-million-dollar project, ended up in Suwannee County. Niagara Water, I believe, I don't know, if it's in Polk County or someplace. Clay. They've invested $170 million over there, taking the same water that they would have got out of the aquifer over here. So clearly, economic development has not been a picture of success at the mega industrial park. With Project Wave and Project Niagara, that's real important because that's a few $100 million that went elsewhere. Have you ever thought, Mr. Chairman, of doing a study to find out why other folks get projects, these big projects, and that industrial park that's supported by the governor? Mr. Murphy say you just pick up the phone and call up the governor anytime, that we get money. And have you decided, have you thought about doing a study to find out why we don't get projects? I don't think it's funny. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars have gone elsewhere because of some reason. It's either the incompetence of Columbia County, the incompetence of some of the staff members on Columbia County, or just bad luck. So are you considering maybe doing a study to find out why we don't get these projects? And I just would recall what I'm finished now, what Mr. Murphy said earlier in the meeting. He said, we have to have people, when he was talking about Mr. Kirby's presentation, with education and experience. Yet you eliminate that every chance you get. So my question is, are you going to do a study to find out why you've lost these hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of project in Columbia County and what you can do to remediate the situation? Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Looker, I'll answer your question. And we don't need a study for me to answer it. Infrastructure. Project Bell didn't locate in Columbia County. They wanted to be here. It was the #1 priority. we could not provide water to them, the amount of water they needed to locate. What did the county do so we don't be in that situation again? We're putting in our own water well at the farm. Sewer. All the things that you need to operate an industrial park, the county is doing that now. We're putting in a sewer treatment plant. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg? When it comes to industrial park, infrastructure comes first. If you don't have infrastructure, you don't get it. This board have made a commitment that we will never be in that position again. That's why we done what we're doing. For that reason. We don't have to do a study. We know the reason. Infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. Until you got infrastructure, they're gonna pass you by.
I have a comment about that too.
Yes, sir.
If you don't notice in the last 3 years that it's been amped up a whole lot getting that place ready, then you're not paying attention. Because, I mean, there was nothing but woods out there. There wasn't a train trust. There wasn't anything. I think when I got here, it was and then all of a sudden, we've been really working on it. We've made that place a priority. Y'all even stronger than me sometimes. So it's happening. It's just, I understand it's been a long time, but the last 2 or 3 years, we've really made a point to concentrate on it.
I couldn't have said it any better. I think we all know we don't need a study. If you can't provide water and sewer, they're not gonna come here. As simple as that. Where we've had water and sewer, I think we've been very successful with economic development. We got the trucking company in here. We got a lot of other people looking at Bell Road corridor out there. We got I-75 and 47 is fixing to explode because what we finally got there is sewer. So I don't think we need a study. I just think we need to get our infrastructure in place and get ready for these companies, and they'll be here. So I think that's your answer. And
Mr.
anybody got
Chairman,
anything to add to it?
it actually kind of reminded me of the one thing I did forget. There is a open house Florida Power & Light is going to be having on May 18th, is it? For another solar plant that we're going to have down there, which is actually large enough to have several solar generation facilities there. So to say that we've not been successful in economic development is not really true. We've got Robbins that's expanding. We've expanded cold storage multiple times. Werner Trucking, obviously, FP&L is building their 4 or 5 building facility and everything going on there. They're adding more solar farms. We've got 5 or 6 solar farms right now on top of that. And several other commercial sites that are developing and coming in that you can see.
We got 2 motels under construction right here on West 90 out here.
And just to remind y'all, we
Look
have
at
the
Ellisville.
hospital. We have the hospital thing
We have
today.
the
The opening of the
hospital
hospital
this
today,
afternoon.
if you're gonna be there.
And look at Ellisville. 5 years ago, Ellisville didn't have hardly anything. So, I mean, economic development has been working within the boundaries that we have the tools to be successful.
It just takes time.
Money.
I think if you'll look at the puzzle, everywhere you get water and sewer, you get infrastructure, you get economic development. Simple as that. And I think we would probably have some people out at the Omega Industrial Park now
Well, Wave would have been.
if we
Oh,
could
we
have
would
provided
have,
them
yeah.
water and sewer at the time. And we thought we had a mechanism in place to do that, but obviously we didn't. So, that's why we're going the direction we're going now. So, anybody else got anything to say? Come on up.
I didn't see Paul sitting back there.
I didn't either.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Paul Dial, City Manager, Executive Director of Utilities for the City of Lake City. You are correct. Infrastructure is the biggest issue the county and the city faces. I would like to state though, since the utilities out at the Mega Industrial Park on 90 at this time are the cities, Project Wave did not come here because of utilities. The city could supply them utilities. There's some other issues. So I want to make sure that the board and the people understand that. We have capacity there for several small industries or something to come in. Now, the water bottling plant, that's a whole different story. I didn't even want to touch that thing. But as far as Project Wave, we could have supplied them. So I don't know what the issue happened with there, but I don't want it blamed on the city's infrastructure.
And I'd like to agree, Eddie, Paul is correct. It was not
It was.
the supply of water or sewer that affected their decision to move to Suwannee County.
It was a land issue.
It was a land issue between them and Weyerhaeuser.
In my comment, I did not mention them. I mentioned Project Bell
Exactly.
Yeah.
because I knew why Project Bell didn't come on account of infrastructure.
Capacity wise, yeah.
But I just wanted to make it clear that there is capacity there for, and me and Davis had this discussion before, that if something comes in and it's not an outrageous need for water and sewer, and it's something that needs to happen real quick, that it can happen.
Absolutely.
And we would certainly want to take advantage of that if we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Anybody else? Commissioners, y'all have anything to say?
One thing, I got one thing, Mr. Chairman. 246 slash Lassie Black Road and Falling Creek. I don't know what's going on there. But I've had last night make my 4th accident within the last 5 months with one fatality on that road. And I want to ask the Kevin to do a study of what it would cost to put a flashing light, a caution light at that intersection. All these years, for the last 20 years, 30 years, I've had 2 accidents. Within the last 5-6 weeks, I've had 4. And Kevin and I rode that intersection. We replaced the rumble strips and all. For there's a night light at that intersection, but it's just going crazy right now for some reason.
Yeah, Mr. Burke.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Williams, I got a phone call this morning about the wreck last night, and as you indicated, we went and put new rumble strips down and whatnot. As recent as yesterday, Commissioner Murphy and I had a conversation about a dangerous intersection in his district. We're improving with rumble strips. Part of your capital project for this upcoming fiscal year, I'm going to be requesting funding for a comprehensive study of all problematic intersections with both county roads. We've already started that in-house. We pulled a decade worth of every kind of crash everywhere 2 county roads meet. And as you indicated, something's going on there. Mr. Phillips, you have a problem in your district. Mr. Hollingsworth and Mr. Murphy share a problematic intersection. Mr. Ford down at 138, you've got a problem. This is, I don't know if it's just the growth, if people's on the phone too much, I don't know. But our intersections have become very problematic. Talking with Mr. Foreman, 2-3 weeks ago, Joe?
Yes, sir.
We discussed, do we just run out there and pick an intersection and we don't capture all of them? This is a very costly thing to do. So that is part of the capital project request proposed for this upcoming fiscal year, to do that comprehensive study, to get a pecking order with lighting these intersections up.
How long is it gonna take to get the study done?
Mr. Phillips, I don't think too long, it's just get it done.
I know, sometimes we study too long.
Well, the purpose of this study is so we don't get in litigation by going and lighting intersection A up and not doing this. If there's 3 fatalities over here and 1 fatality here, I can just see how that could be a hot mess. I think Mr. Foreman could echo me better on that.
You just need an evidentiary basis so that you don't, correct an intersection that's perhaps less dangerous than another one that you didn't correct. And then something bad happens at that more dangerous intersection and they come back and sue you for failing to signalize that intersection. Because clearly you were aware there was a problem when you went. So we just need to do a study. So we have a list, sort of like we do with the capital projects list. These are the most dangerous down to the least dangerous according to the study, and we start picking them off. And as long as we're working on that priority list, we have justification. But I think it's just a step that's going to need to be accomplished to make sure that we can address these concerns.
Anybody else?
That's all I have.
Robbie?
No, sir.
I'm good.
I'm good. Tim?
Good.
David? Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
See everybody at
Yeah,
3:30.
Second. 3:30.
3:30.
Hospital.